Hey, how are you today? This is Josh Patrick, and you're cracking the cash flow code. And today, my guest is Jeff Brandeis, and Jeff is the CEO of Brandeis Training Solutions. And if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, you just saw his contact information wander up on your screen. But before I bring Jeff on, I've been forgetting to do this on a pretty regular basis. And I want to make sure I don't forget to do this time, which is if you're listening to this podcast, which I assume you're doing at some point, I hope you go to wherever you listen to your podcast and give us an honest rating and review. It's a really important thing to do. So I hope you do it. And I say thank you in advance. So now that I've given you the ad for doing our rating and review, let's bring Jeff in and start the conversation. Hey, Jeff, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Josh. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And you're a sales training guy who is a recovering CPA.
Yes, I made a huge transition of a career from going accounting and moved into sales. So you don't find too many accountants that actually make that kind of a transition. But
Well, actually, if you're a partner at one of those big 8 firms that you started at and you can't sell, you don't make partner unless you're a technical wizard.
That is very true. You need to be able to go through the ranks, and these days, to like you just said, to make partner, the term that they use right now is called a rainmaker. That you need to become a rainmaker in the firm, which is basically bringing revenue in the door to become a partner. So yes, very true.
Yeah. So I you know, the fact that we think that, I mean, one of the biggest misnomers in the world is people say, well, I'm not in sales. And let's start there because, you know, it really kind of is an interesting thing is that I like everyone to think they're in sales.
I agree.
So why is it, do you think people like to say I'm not in sales?
You know, sales seems to have this negativity term because people think of sales and they think of and no offense to this industry, I'm like the used car sales guy, that I'm basically a salesman. You know, they're typically commission based. They're usually pushy personalities. And again, I'm not trying to stereotype any industry or any person, but I think just from the connotation of I'm in sales, it means, if I'm a customer, my barrier goes up, my wall goes up because I don't want to get sold to.
The truth is, you know, if you want to get a job, you're in sales. If you want someone to do something, you're in sales. And where I stand, sales is sort of around influencing.
It definitely is influencing, and you just even go one step further. You know, you're back in a year ago, you're in a bar, you meet somebody, you're trying to date somebody, trying to ask someone to go out, and you're selling yourself, you're selling your personality. There's an offer, there's an acceptance, or there's a rejection. So yes, sales is always around us.
So when you coach people on sales, what's the first thing you start off with?
First thing I start off with when I coach people is to build rapport. At the end of the day, I think most people will agree, people will buy from people who they like and trust. And the best way to build that trust is to build rapport. So ask questions to get that person speaking, tell them about themselves, ask them about their business, ask them about what their challenges are, and get them to come out and have them speak. The less you talk when you're first meeting somebody, candidly, I feel the better off you're going to be in the long run.
So how important is it to let the person know that you're speaking with that you understand their problems through the questions you're asking?
It is important to recognize their challenges, their problems, and be able to, candidly, if you don't know an answer and you don't understand the problem, you just ask another question to dig a little deeper. Sometimes, a lot of times, people will give you an answer, but it's really to find out how much do you really know about them, how much homework you've done, and will you actually ask that next question to dig a little deeper. And I think that's a challenge where I see a lot of sales folks stop. They ask that superficial question, they get kind of a superficial answer, if you would, and they don't follow it up with a, can you explain more about that challenge? Help me understand deeper, really, where you get stuck, or what objections do you hear from your clients when you're trying to sell them your products? And I think it's those follow-up questions that really, separates the, salespeople in general.
How many follow-up questions do you coach your folks to ask?
I don't really have a set number. I think candidly, part of it is really depending upon how that person is responding to you. I think you don't want to come at them like a rapid fire question where they feel like they're now on the hot seat and you're just going to hit them with 10, 20 questions, because that makes them feel very uncomfortable. So I think 2 or 3, try to understand really what their challenges are, and then move on to a little different area and maybe pick up another area of a concern. And I try to make these my discovery calls, where I can discover maybe 2, 3, 4 different things that are going on with that company, with that individual, that they're challenged with, as opposed to just, opening one wound, if you would, and digging deeper and digging that knife in and making it more painful. So in my mind, you got to step back and then take them onto another course. And there's always good things going on also, and you also should be able to get some of their good. So what's working, and get them comfortable about speaking about their business.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of what I call conversational questions.
Correct.
Meaning that in my first meeting with somebody, which usually goes for somewhere around an hour to 2 hours, because we do a thing called the alignment conversation.
Mm-hmm.
For the first 2/3 of the conversation, all I do is ask questions.
Right.
And it's on a very straight, it goes, I have a format for doing it, and it gets people really to have an understanding that I get a deep understanding where they're from, because I know the questions to ask.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the idea of having scripts, quite candidly, where you understand where you want to go, where you want to wind up. I think also, and you probably see this in some sales folks too, they, with all due respect, they wing it. And your prospect knows when you're winging it and you're making stuff up too. So I think it's having a cadence and having that script. I have one as well when I speak to my prospects. So I think it keeps you on track, and that's very important as well when you're going on a sales call.
Yeah, mine's not so much a script as it is a framework.
Yeah.
Because I basically want to know 4 things, and I use those 4 things I want to find out as a framework, and we have a conversation around that so I can figure out what those 4 things are, and then I go there. So I'm a big fan of systems and processes.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I like doing them myself, but I know how important they are for business success. And one of the biggest mistakes, and we mostly are talking to blue-collar businesses here, where they probably don't have a salesperson, and the owner goes out and does some selling in between jobs. And what would you say to that person about why they need to develop a sales process to know where they are on the road to getting a sale?
Having you hit a great point there. Sales process is so important in every company, no matter what you're selling, quite candidly. You need to be able to have a process that will candidly be able to predict when revenue is going to be coming in the door. You need to know what stage a potential customer is in, so you can have that forecastable revenue. As you mentioned, I was in public accounting for 5 years, and one thing I learned is process. CPA firms have a process to getting a tax return out the door, doing a write-up work, doing an audit. And just like this entrepreneur has a process probably for, getting their products in the door, inventory control, their billing functions. They need that same control process in sales. They need to know what how their marketing is working. What kind of lead conversions are they getting from their marketing? What's their close ratios, percentages, and even the average days that it takes them to close a sale. These are all statistics that make them better entrepreneurs and better owners. And as I said earlier, it gives them that ability as they learn their sales cycle to know when that revenue is going to come in the door, so that they can judge paying bills, judge paying other people, and it just makes them a much better owner.
So, why is it that you think that most private business owners resist having a sales process so hard? I mean, for me, every time I say you need a sales process, I always get a lot of pushback.
Yeah, I do too. I think there's no school for sales. You can go to college and you can get a degree in marketing. You can go to college and get a degree in business, but there's no degree in sales. It's kind of odd, but like you said earlier, we sell every day. Sales is part of us. So I think there's a reluctance because they don't know, and they don't believe that sales is actually a craft as well, which is another thing I talk about, in that you need to learn and you need to get better at sales, which basically improves your ability to get more sales in the door. But it's just something that they never really got trained on in college, or at a young age, if they went from college and just went straight to being an entrepreneur. I'll take my product, I'll do my marketing, and I'll put my product up on the internet, and I'll make sales that way. So I think there is a reluctance to really go with that other aspect of building that sales process, which they really should have. They must have.
The truth is, most private business owners, especially blue collar private business owners, have never been to business school. In fact, many of them have never been to college.
Mm-hmm.
So, the fact that they didn't get training, they've got no business training. They just were good at something, and they opened the business up doing whatever that something was.
Right.
And most of those folks never bothered to learn any business skills. They just keep doing what they're doing and managing to make a little bit of money along the way.
It's true. So yeah, they either went to school or they didn't go to school, and they just built the business on their own. And again, sales training is one of those also things that I find seems to be one of those. I don't need sales training. I don't. It's one of those. I don't have the money for sales training, but the return on investment to learning how to properly and correctly do sales is tremendous. And that's the part that I find sometimes very frustrating when I do speak to those entrepreneurs is they'll invest in a program, in a software program or a marketing program, and they yet won't invest in themselves and making themselves better in sales, and to really be able to see if their investment is really paying off from a sales perspective.
So why do you think that's true?
It's a mindset. It really is. And it's a mindset that I worked very hard, obviously, trying to overcome, because I think, from a sales training perspective, is I hear all the time, I don't have time to go sit through sales training. And candidly, I mean, we offer sales training online. You can watch it, they're short clips, 4 to 7 minutes a pop. People think if I sit through a sales class, it's these 2-3 hour sessions, and they sit back, get some popcorn, and they watch the video. It's not like that. It shouldn't be like that. The sales training should be interactive. It should be a give and take. There should be workbooks that you're completing while you're sitting through the training. There should be short quizzes at the end of the videos if you're doing it that way. And obviously nowadays with virtual training, we can do training in an hour over the web, early in the morning, late at night, and we can accomplish what you need. It will make you better. It will make you stronger.
Yeah, the challenge is with online courses, and you probably know the statistic as well as anybody. I think it's something like 7% of people who buy an online course ever complete it. And by the way, you just hit it on the nail on the head on why they don't get completed. Too many of these online courses have lessons that go for a half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour. And my God, nobody is going to sit in front of a computer for an hour watching a video. And the way you're doing it with the 4 to 7 minute clips and then an exercise afterwards, 15 minutes and you're done for the day.
Yes, you can knock out a chapter very easily in 15 minutes, and they're great little short chapters of videos. And again, even if you're listening to in your car while you're going to work, or you're having lunch, you can take those 10, 15-minute breaks and be productive.
Yeah, I mean, the only online courses I ever come close to completing are the ones that are organized like the way you are. And frankly, thankfully, many of the online teachers have now figured this out and have stopped the 1 hour dragging on forever that nobody ever finishes.
Right.
Because I don't know about you. I don't have an hour to sit in front of the computer and watch a stupid video.
I get it. And I'm going to bring one other aspect into this, if I may, Josh. And this is another thing we teach. When you're doing a presentation to somebody, how people learn is how people buy. Now, I'll repeat that. How people learn is how people buy. The words that they use is so important on how you have to actually switch your presentation to their style of learning. And you take that into your videos where people are visual, but auditory type of people. So what we do in our training is we have workbooks that they can print out. We have screens. On the screen, we put the keywords. We ask people to write keywords down into these workbooks. And so whether you're a visual learner, you're an auditory learner, or the other third way is a kinesthetic learner, we cover all three in our courses. And when you switch your presentation to match the people's learning style, even in today's world where you really need to when we're doing it virtually, it's so important to understand how your buyers or how your people learn. And if you can match your presentation to their learning style, you build rapport in 3 times faster in 1/3 the time.
Yeah, no question about that. I'm also a big fan of stories in selling, and I'm a huge fan of Don Miller's story brand. He doesn't know it, but I've been pushing his stuff all over the place because it's such a good framework for whatever you're doing. I mean, I actually use the project framework to prepare for meetings, because then I know what the problem is and what I'm trying to solve and what the person wants and I'm talking with. And I go through that framework and I'm telling them stories that help them understand that I understand, and I can challenge them along the way, which brings me to my favorite sales book of all times, The Challenger Sale.
Challenge.
I have been selling that way for my entire life. And The Challenger Sale, for those who don't know, is a book I highly recommend you read. In fact, I think it should be required reading. Is that what their research has shown is that, oh, yes, you do want to build rapport with the person who's buying from you, but more importantly, you want to challenge them to think differently about their problem, and then and this is the important part, and then have a solution for that different thought process that makes you at least appear to be different than all your peers.
Agreed. Yeah, storytelling, it's so important these days, and especially when you're talking about communications, and it's one of the classes that we do teach. And the examples I actually talk about or speak about during training are personal stories of how you can take your business communication skills and bring them into your personal life. And one of the stories I actually tell, and if I have 2 minutes, I'd like to tell this, is I had a friend of mine whose son, Adam, went into 6th grade, and he was previously an A student. Got to 6th grade and D's and F's, and they wanted to put him on drugs because he got so disruptive. I'll make a long story short, is what happened was in 6th grade, they went to textbooks. in grades 1 through 5, there were workbooks. So he was able to write in the workbook. In 6th grade, he wasn't allowed. And he was a visual learner. So when you're able to, again, especially in today's world where you have more homeschooling going on, your children need to learn differently as well, and you need to communicate with them differently. So the skill sets that you learn in business definitely can transcend itself and transform itself to your personal lives.
Cool. So, Jeff, so tell me, give me a book or two that you think would be useful for people to read if they want to become better at being in sales.
There's definitely a Challenger Sale is definitely good out there. Spin Selling is another one. Actually, I'm about to release a book called Done Deal, a sales guide, a handbook, which actually goes back to talking about what we asked me about earlier, is having a sales process. So this defines really a 5-step process from gaining access, understanding the needs of your prospect, doing a presentation or executing a demo, then making sure you're in agreement with that prospect, and then it's time to buy. So it's really a quick 5-step process. It's a book that's about to hit Amazon. So thank you for that great segue lead in. So I truly appreciate it. But I am a Challenger fan as well, and I do like Spin Selling as well.
So what is the thesis of Spin Selling? I haven't read it. I've heard about it, certainly.
Well, it's a similar philosophy of being able to understand your prospects' needs and be able to give them a different way of thinking of how they, should be able to challenge themselves, if you would, and not to take away from Challenger, but the basic concepts of sales still come down to being able to make your person that you're speaking to think about what they're doing, that there are other ways that they should be open to, and to have them spin their thoughts, if you would, get their head thinking about alternatives. Because as you know, like I know, if something's not working, the definition of insanity is continuing to do the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And unfortunately, that seems to happen, a little bit more often than I like to see in businesses. So Spin kind of takes that same concept, but puts it in a little different, vernacular, if you would, versus the Challenge. But they both books will complement themselves really well.
Cool. So Jeff, unfortunately, we are out of time. And I'm going to bet that some of the folks listening to this today are going to want to find you. So since not everybody watches this on YouTube or Facebook where they can see your information, how would they go about finding you?
On the web, they can find me at everybodysellssomething.com. That's everybodysellssomething.com. Or if you'd like to make an appointment with me, have a free consultation, you can go to Speak with Jeff, and spelled Jeff, so speakwithjeff.com. My calendar will show up. You can book 15 minutes or a half-hour appointment. It's free. Love to have a consultation with you, and would look forward and the opportunity to speak with someone with you.
Cool. So I thank you. And I also have an offer for you. I have an ebook I've written on what we call the Sale Ready Company. And the Sale Ready Company does not mean, and I want to say does not mean you're about to go out and sell your company. It just means you've got your company in a position that other people would really, really want to own it. And that's a great place to be. I've written an ebook on the 8 steps to be creating a Sale Ready company. It's free. It's easy to get. You go to www.sustainablebusiness.co/sale ready. That's www.sustainablebusiness.co/sale ready. You get the free ebook. And if you're interested, you can have a 20-minute phone call with me about what it takes for you to create a sale ready company in your world. So this is Josh Patrick. We're with Jeff Brandeis. You're at Cracking the Cashflow Code. Thanks a lot for stopping by. I hope to see you back here really soon.